And we are going to get into it. Alex, thank you for being here. Palantir is named after the Seeing Stones in J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. Palantir has a complicated, let's say sometimes secretive, controversial business that helps the U.S. And other countries and governments around the world make sense of complicated data. That's what they do. Its business has soared in the age of artificial intelligence. Today, it is among the top 30 most valuable companies in the world. It is worth $400 billion. And after October 7th, Karp has been perhaps singularly the most outspoken CEO in America to support Israel. Week after the attack, he took out a full-page ad in this newspaper, the New York Times, had 4 words on it. It said, Palantir stands with Israel. Should say the IDF and Mossad are clients of Palantir. But there are a lot of questions about what they are doing here in the U.S., including their contract with ICE and their work around the world, and we are going to talk about all of it. Alex, thank you for being with us.
Couldn't imagine why we're controversial. Couldn't imagine.
Let's discuss this, because I think, and I mean this...
By the way, I see that as we're on the side of... I mean, you know, when you support allies, in Israel, which I guess typically is the most controversial in public, honestly, interestingly, often 65. The least controversial in private, it's like, it doesn't actually, and I do support all those things, it doesn't actually mean that you support every decision. It means you support them having a superior position to their adversaries. I mean, that really starts with America, which is, you know, I think one of the real problems that, you know, the non-controversial companies have is they can't admit what they think in private, which is they believe what they're doing is better and superior to what other people are doing.
I want to get into all of that, but I'll tell you where I want to start. I want to start with this. You wrote a book last year called The Technological Republic, and you quote Samuel Huntington in it, and that argues the following, argues that the rise of the West,
ladies and gentlemen,
was not
we are live,
quote, by the superiority of its ideas or values
covering
or
the
religion,
Dealbook mentioned markets,
but rather by its superiority in applying organized violence. What do you mean by that, and is that what Palantir ultimately does?
Well, I think one of the most interesting about that quote is it's indisputably and obviously true.
And you genuinely believe that the U.S., this idea of ideas, values, religion has nothing to do with it? You think it really is about organized violence?
No. Sorry, I didn't say that our ideas aren't important. Obviously, I come from an academic family, and I was planning to be an academic before I realized it was worthless and I'd be better at building things. But
we should talk about that too.
But like, okay, one of the biggest problems we have in our elite institutions, especially our Ivy Leagues, is this indisputable truth that no one would listen to the superiority of our ideas if our ability to organize in violence was inferior. That every single person in the world believes, outside of the faculty of Harvard, and certainly all of our adversaries know to be true, is viewed as something that's kind of worthy of great discussion and dispute. And the primary reason they dispute it, honestly, is because at their core, they want to undermine the superiority of Western values, which are meritocracy, rule of law, accepting that inputs and outputs are not the same, that are the basis of building the superiority on the military plane.
So you think that the university culture is trying to undermine that?
Well, I think it's moved from the 50s, where it was trying to explain why our Constitution is the best way to organize our lives, not others. Why meritocracy is necessary, even if it means letting in immigrants to your institution. Why inputs and outputs aren't the same. Why the First, Second, Third, Fourth Amendment are unique, and why it was worth standing up for these values has literally been transformed, especially in the humanities departments too. Of course, none of that could work because no one like us is good at doing that, basically. I mean, that's like, and therefore the whole thing couldn't work. And downstream of that is enormous dysfunction, and you see this in all sorts of issues. Our primary and most important adversary, I say adversary consciously and not enemy, is China. And we will decide, AI and the ability to implement it on the battlefield primarily will decide the values, i.e.
Dang,
the
someone's
norms,
very
the laws,
fast.
and the spirit of the laws that are imposed upon us across the globe. And if you think for a minute they believe anything that we're being taught in our idiotic faculty You are even more idiotic than the professors teaching it. And I'll tell you, if you actually believe in these values, again, I'm not a neocon, I never was. That's why I'm skeptical of immigration, because I don't think all this cultural assimilation hasn't worked in the last 50 years, and that's an obvious truth you're also not allowed to say. I'm skeptical of imposing values on other people. I never believed we should or try to make the Arab Middle East, Wilsonian people, like a Wilsonian ideal imposed upon them. If you believe for a second that anyone else outside this country believes that we are going to defend our values without superiority and moral violence, you're just living in a world that
Violence is
doesn't
getting
exist.
close to lethal.
It does not exist, and no matter how much you try to impose it on the rest of us, it still won't exist.
Okay, I want to talk about you for a second and your own politics and your shift in politics. By the way, there's a piece in the Washington Post about you this morning that gets into some of this.
This has to be Trump.
You grew up in
Only because I have great respect for you, I don't interrupt you immediately. I didn't shift my politics. The political parties have shifted their politics. The idea that what's being called progressive is in any way progressive is a complete farce. I've been progressive since the beginning of Palantir. I'm continue to be progressive. I grew up in a highly intellectual, mostly Jewish, incredibly left-wing environment. And every Saturday and every Friday, I heard a lecture about how the conservatives are going to destroy this country with illegal immigration because it's going to undermine the fabric of the American worker. That was 50 years ago. That's what it means to be a progressive. And being a progressive doesn't mean just, it feels so good to be involved in dysfunction, things that can never work, a form of socialism that's never worked, having no meritocracy. That's not progressive. That's honestly cowardly. And most people half my old party knows it. They don't speak up. It's bullshit. It will never work. And it does not help. The biggest problem with that is it's not helping the poor people that they claim to. If you think that's helping a black person in the inner city, you're ridiculous. The last thing anyone in this country needs is a dysfunctional educational system and handouts that have never worked and are not going to work.
Okay, let me ask you, though, because I know you say you didn't shift your view, but I do want to read you something that appears as if you shifted your view. This is back in 2017 about Trump.
Oh,
You said,
it's gonna be
quote, I
Trump. I
respect
couldn't get
nothing
these.
about the dude. It would be hard to make up someone I find less appealing.
There's a lot of things that are quoted about me that were not quoted in public.
Is he
in
gonna
this book,
dodge Trump here?
My biography. There's tons and tons of quotes. I'll give you a different version of this. A lot of these you're not really doing this, and we've been at this for almost a decade. And he was kind enough to interview me when I was a complete clown and joked to everyone else besides me and our motley crew of Palantir. And I greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
One of the biggest lessons, and just a slight detour to the wonderful and very important country of Germany that is seeming to be crashing its German functionality and competence into a plane.
Someone bonded Trump up to 91.
Into the ground of political correctness that it somehow can't escape for historical reasons. The minute you judge somebody by anything but the issues you agree with. So in Germany, the Green Party and the Socialists have convinced the majority party they can never vote with the far right on immigration. I care about two issues. I care about immigration and reestablishing the deterrent capacity of America without being a colonialist neocon view. And on those two issues, this president has performed. And those are the two issues I care
president
So what were the issues that you
keeps dodging
you didn't
Trump
agree with him when
by
you
name.
said he was not an appealing dude before? What was that?
First of all, you're quoting somebody who's quoting me off the record that's in the public record. I care about two issues. I am not going to be proxy corralled into having no power by something of I care about these two issues. By the way, I was a supporter of the Democratic Party. What two issues did the Democratic Party not perform?
What's up, Semper?
Does anyone think the Democratic Party performed on
He
migration
keeps referring to
or
Trump as
deterrence?
he instead of
That's
Trump.
crazy. You could care about different issues. I'm pro-choice. It's not my number one issue. I'm wildly pro-gay rights. It's not my number one issue. The minute you allow yourself to be corralled into, I disagree with this person, I disagree, you've basically transferred your power to one party. Palantir and I am not transferring my power and our influence, which honestly, the mainstream media at the Washington Post and at the New York Times doesn't always like me. That's great, because you know who does like me? About 10 million people, primarily dudes in this country. And you know what? I'm going to use my whole influence to make sure this country stays skeptical on migration and has a deterrent capacity that it only uses selectively.
Okay, let me ask you this, and this goes to maybe
This guy's very eccentric.
just being a blunt instrument, compassion, what have you. I think you could argue, in terms of immigration policy, that you don't want to have illegal immigrants in the country, or you want to prevent illegal immigrants from coming into the country, et cetera. We are now seeing ICE working its way around the country, and oftentimes folks ripping people off the streets with masks on.
Man, no Trump could make sense
You
here.
and Palantir are working hand in hand with ICE. That's public. What do you make of that? What do you make of it's not necessarily the policy, but the approach to the policy?
Let me give you
It ends
my
at like 5
critique
p.m.
of what I would call, I think this questioning is proxy culpable of. Our country has selective empathy for everybody but working class, particularly white males. So when you look at coverage in mainstream newspapers about the constitutionality of blowing up boats that are bringing fentanyl here, I guarantee you, if that fentanyl was killing people at schools we went to, potentially your kids are going to, it would be constitutional to blow up those boats. There is selective instrumental use of empathy that somehow is only applied at the point where it would help
back to the
us.
idea of, what about
Sorry, you asked the question, you're going to get the full answer you don't want. The full answer you don't want. You brought me on stage. You know what you're getting. Okay. And by the way, I'm on stage, and I know a lot of the people on stage sponsoring this are skeptical of me. You know why? I'm on stage here because at Palantir, and I would encourage you to think of this, I divide the world into Palantir and Palantir derangement syndrome, Palantir skeptics, and Palantir haters. My biggest fans started off as Palantir skeptics and Palantir haters. I believe that someday almost everyone in this audience is going to agree with me. You may not like me now, but you're going to agree later. And I'll also tell you something. Look to the left, look to the right. The person you think is offended by this actually agrees with me. That is 100% true.
Okay, well,
Okay, sorry. And yeah, it's 100% true. And keep that in mind. I'll tell you a secret that I hope the New York Times and the Washington Post doesn't listen to.
okay.
Sorry.
Maybe I just want to bring us back to this one issue, which is, you talked about the rule of law, and you talked about things being constitutional. And so here we're talking about these boats, for example, that were blown up, right? And whether you have empathy for them or not.
And he's really trying to nail him
given,
down.
the folks who are getting killed by fentanyl, the question is whether this is being done on a constitutional basis and being done in the right way.
Well,
and if it's not being done in the right way,
Well,
how you feel about
65 cents plus
course,
for yes?
Part of the reason why I like this questioning is the more constitutional you want to make it, the more precise you want to make it, the more you're going to need my product. So you keep pushing on making it constitutional. I'm totally supportive of that. A constitutional, you would need to understand where the things are going, how are they going, under what conditions, where do they belong.
But I'm asking you just as a person, on a sort of a moral basis, as a human, when you see people, young people, mothers and fathers and families getting ripped apart with the masks on, with the ICE folks, what you think of that?
Of course, but at this point you're abusing empathy, because I of course don't like that.
Right.
No one likes that. No American. This is the fairest, least bigoted, most open-minded culture in the world.
But if you don't like it, shouldn't you say, hey, government,
you're going to let me finish?
Please.
Okay, so in this country, you have 1% of the country in prison, 1% who were in prison and therefore have no rights. Do you know what happens to you when you go to prison? They take you away from your kids. You know who that happens to? Disproportionately working class, disproportionately black and Hispanic men and white men in the underclass. Where are the thousands of articles about them? Nobody cares, and they don't care because it does not
Getting
either
chippy?
serve the ability,
What do you mean?
the desire to force me to vote for one party, which basically takes away all my power. That's effectively
Dude, he's
what
dodged
it does.
Trump
If I agree to say
like
this is
crazy.
the worst thing in the world, I essentially have given up my vote. My vote is not for you. My vote is for these two issues. The second reason they don't care is because somehow no one has empathy with any of those people, because none of us really deal with those people. At Palantir, we are on the side of working class Americans. We support people who go to the military.
You got
we
Trump,
save
yes,
their
at
lives,
16.
We bring them home safer. Our AI actually makes workers more wealthy.
Yeah,
more
but he's been
valuable,
dodging
and
woke.
The 10 to 15 million people that love him
Like,
despite what's
I feel
written,
like no's were super
half of them made a
undervalued
lot
here.
of money on us. And you know what they're like? They're like people like me who think, you know what? We have to do better. Of course we have to do better.
What do you say to this then? Take me out of it, take the media out of it.
I don't know
There's a
how
group
long
of
these are.
13 former Palantir employees who wrote an open letter to you, and they stated, quote, that Palantir's leadership has abandoned its founding ideals.
We have 5,000 ex-Palantirians and 4,000 current Palantirians. And by the way, we encourage a culture of disagreement, which you know exists. Anyone can come visit us. You'll find half the people disagreeing with me, at least on any issue. But I just want to say, we have 5,000 ex-Palantirians. You have 13, half of whom were like in the humanities department of Palantir, which is a little bit like being in the printing press part of New York Times, a very important part, but no one's really listening to your opinion. So it's like, yeah, you know, if you have an
questions on
organization,
Russia, Ukraine
I'll tell you
either.
what, a lot of Palantirians are mostly uncomfortable. Most Palantirians are like you. I don't know who you are because you're an objective journalist, but they broadly are okay with, they like the work we do in Ukraine. By the way, could Europeans
Ukraine.
finally stick up for us, since we're basically
Finally, he brings
between
it up.
us and
I'll bond this.
Russia, but they're very proud of that in
So I'll
general.
be
Although
top
that's
book.
also very controversial in non-elite circles. That's important to remember. They're pretty okay with Israel stuff, especially since a lot of the BS written about us on the right, primarily,
I was
not
thinking of
primarily on
buying
the left, that somehow we're doing
no's
facial
just as I was
recognition
thinking
stuff
about
and
this.
we're building a database. Any technical person knows that's BS. By the way, if you've heard that and you believe that, listen to the person who told you that.
Yeah,
do 10 minutes
probably,
of research, and
Tyler.
you'll see who has credibility for
Okay,
you. in the
speak
future.
to that directly, though, because people talk about surveillance. They immediately say surveillance, Palantir, that you are helping the U.S. government in a massive surveillance program, given the amount of data that's coming in from all sorts of different agencies now.
First thing, before I will absolutely get to that, the biggest misconception about Palantir is none of this. Palantir is an absolute dominant juggernaut in U.S. commercial and AI. Our revenue grew 121%. The most important metric in enterprise software, we have the highest number ever recorded. It's well over 2x any number that would be highly respectable. So we're like the Michael Jordan on the numbers in U.S. commercial. And that really pisses a lot of people off. That's true. Most of our money, 75% of our revenue comes from America. That's growing 77%. And most of our market cap comes from that. So like, we are just crushing it in the most meritocratic environment in the world, U.S. commercial. Okay, so the surveillance stuff, of course, there's the Pollyannish version of it, which is like our product could never be abused. What is true is that we are highly ethical, but don't believe us on that. We are obviously not building a database. We're not. I mean, the most absurd one is we've built a database in Israel we're bringing here. Okay, that is complete nuts. First of all, we were in this country from the very beginning, and second of all, you don't need us to build a database. That's like, oh, I'm like, I have a ruler, a ruler and a pencil so I can do math. Oh, I got a calculator. So it's just, that's like you're selling your people like corn syrup, cornflakes or something. Okay, so you get to the big issue. Are we building a database that can be used for surveillance? No. Okay, but the more subtle version is, if you're legally surveilled, we don't even really work heavily with the FBI or DOJ. Could you put it in our product? Yes. Are our enemies surveilled using data that goes into our product? 100%, and I completely support that. The most interesting thing about the lie that we are doing this is not that our product couldn't be abused. Any workable technology that's ever been built has been abused. Electricity has been abused. Gasoline engines have been abused. Okay, but our product is the single hardest product in the world to abuse, because every single step that you take is absolutely transparent. So if you want to use our product to abuse human rights, you've created a record of you doing it. I can tell you, and this is the part where you can get into the low trust environment, and you don't have to believe me. The environments that abuse data in this world, mostly SIGINT, meaning from satellites, have never liked our product. And we were the first place to act. We are the first, and to my extent, to my knowledge, only company that said we're not going to work in Russia, we're not going to work in China. And by the way, on the issue everyone would think, because they somehow think I'm like only care about, we were the first company to say we would not build a Muslim database, and we ended contracts in this country with institutions that were essentially there to surveil Muslim Americans. And the primary reason for these attacks is on the far left, people are like, they do not like us because we stand for meritocracy. We hire and promote independent of all variables. We stand for the rule of law. We stand for competence, and we call out the complete bullshit that this. Okay, on the far right, they don't like us because they think I'm somehow a Jewish conspiracy because 2 of the 4 or 5 co-founders are Jewish. I'm like, okay, great. You know?
Yeah, that's
why
what I'm saying. He
things are
keeps using
successful,
other
it's not all
language instead of
conspiracy,
woke.
It is a fact. Those are just the facts.
You mentioned.
And I'm a little bit pissed at the New York Times, honestly, but since you, and the main reason is I believe in your, if you're listening, I believe in your mission. When you write a technically completely illiterate article, you lose a lot of credibility with people who are technical. And that's just a fact. That article about us being a surveillance thing is like where it's all implied what we do. Yeah, but the problem is you lose credibility with anyone who goes on the thing, and that's damaging for our democracy.
Let me ask you this question, though. Is there a red line for you? Meaning, if you saw your software being used in a way that you genuinely believed was unconstitutional or illegal, are there conversations you ever have, back channel or otherwise, where you say,
You're everything
guys,
yes except Trump?
This is
I don't know how
not-
long this is
not
going to
cool.
last,
We're not
Semper.
doing this.
You know, there's a term that was unfortunately coined called constructive engagement. First of all, again, we did not sell our product to cigarette manufacturers that wanted to sell their cigarettes to poor black neighborhoods. We pulled our product from law enforcement institutions that were purely doing profiling. In certain countries in Latin America, racial profiling is just part of how they do credit scores. We could have made a lot of money on that. We refused to do it.
Dang,
We
someone's already
said
buying
no
this at
to
99.
Many countries across the world. We said no to China. We didn't say no, but we didn't work in adversarial countries. So, you know, like we have, like there's always, have you done this, I think is the most important. And we did this at points where it was critical and we were in desperate times financially. So we did this when it absolutely could have crushed our country,
So-
our company. So the obvious answer
Let's
is
see.
yes. Then there's the more subtle answer. All these countries and people I defend in public, like Israel's a perfect example. I think most of the critiques of Israel, not all, but a lot of people just have like Israel derangement or Jewish derangement syndrome. It's like they're like hobbyists. It's like they think about Jews all day. It's like, I don't know. I grew up in the Jewish community. How often do you think about Jews? I don't think about Jews very often. So it's like, hey, of course I'm going to defend in a way publicly.
This
that
started 30 minutes ago.
I can assure you privately, people have less present conversations than the one we're having. Like I told the Israeli government from the beginning, maximum violence to the people organizing violence, minimal violence to the people on the front end. I told every single person.
Do you think that they lived up to that? We're going to talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu this afternoon.
You know, you.
Wait, Netanyahu's
I
coming?
can tell you, I feel that if
I don't
somewhat
see that on the
immodestly, if
list.
people listen to me more actively in Germany on migration, on Israel on these issues, and on lots of other things, we'd have a better world. Or primarily my Democratic Party. You know, it's like, do we really have to pretend that it's immoral to have a border?
In other words, you don't think that they have done it as well as they should.
You know, well, put it this way. In a world where people didn't have so much derangement syndrome, I would be a lot more critical. In this world, I think you have to compare them to what the competence level of any other country, and you say, yeah, these things are very hard and brutal, and watching these things happen is very difficult. But, you know, yeah, it's a
People
very
are
hard world,
pricing that
because
this
in
is
the
about to end.
We are in a world where there really aren't high integrity partners on any side of the debate. So the minute you admit that in public that someone is wrong, you're really just serving somebody who has no interest in advancing the debate at all.
I
They have
don't
an
see
interest in
BB
their
on the
party
list, though.
winning.
Is he really?
That's not my interest. My party is an advance. My
I don't know
version
why I
is we
didn't see him on
advance
my
America
list.
as the superior country in the world, and we remove a lot of the dysfunction by argument, by persuading people, which I'm notoriously bad at. In Palantir, we believe we're notoriously good at being right.
Alex, you founded this company with
Not at persuading people we're right. We leave that to
Yes.
the New York Times.
You co-founded this company with Peter Thiel, and for a long time there was a view that Peter, who's been on this stage many times, was the conservative and you were the progressive, and that served the interests actually of the company in a certain way because you were effectively bipartisan. I'm curious how you think now that there's a view that you and Peter are all in with this administration in particular.
Another
that
Trump angle.
If in fact Democrats come to take over the White House in 28 or 32 or whatever it is in the future, that will make it more complicated for the company.
Well, first of all, I don't think that view, like most of these views, makes any sense. I'm an independent.
Oh,
My
it's
vote
a
is up for
surprise.
grab. If you are willing to talk about having a closed border and maintaining deterrence, so I don't think that's at all true. And I will tell you something else that's true. If the Democrats, my former party or current party or however you want to look at it, ran someone who agreed with me, even in private, they would win. So, maybe you should stop winning in the faculty lounge and start winning. We have a saying we're apparently not supposed to say anymore, but we always said we're cold in the streets and hot in the sheets. Democratic Party should think about that one a lot. Okay.
Let me ask you.
What's he doing here?
By the way,
Wait.
let me answer the second derivative of your question.
Yep.
We're not doing at Palantir what's in the best interest. We do in Palantir what we think is right. And the funny thing is, because of our ability to build, I guess the 30th, I think it's like top 20 U.S. companies, something like that, and we're accelerating in year 20, which no one has ever done. A lot of stuff no one else has done, and we are the backbone of U.S. deterrent. People assume that we're more. In fact, we have this problem at Palantir. We have people who join, they think they're joining a normal company. We're not a normal company. We are fighting for what we believe, and we're putting in a product to give the people that agree with us a superior position.
Okay, so I want to ask you this, and it's a Trump question. You wrote your college thesis
Another
on
Trump
fascism.
angle.
There's a view, and I'm curious where you land.
Wow.
Do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
Of course not. I think that's stupid, honestly. And you know what? Again, you can go all day on these stuff. It's honestly idiotic. I grew up half
He's
my
going to
life in Germany.
dodge saying Trump,
I
man.
spent time with actual
That would have been a
fascists.
good play.
I went and talked to lots of former Nazis. We have a democratic society, and he won in a landslide. I don't see any sign of him being. Look, of course, I don't agree. It's like I don't know what the point of these. It's like.
Well, the reason I was asking it was because you did study this. This was your thesis, and there's a lot of people who have different views about this. I was actually let me ask you a different question, but maybe it's related.
He's just dodging
the
saying
U.S. government has
Trump.
been taking stakes in lots of different technology.
Keep saying
companies.
Okay,
him.
sorry. If you want to, with all respect, I am running the most important tech company in the world. If you want to talk about banalities, about who I support, how I support, why I support it, you can ask them all day. I keep answering the same question, which is, I believe your question's basically the third derivative of them is I transfer all my political power to you by being boxed in. The same way the Green Party boxes in.
No. Let me just ask you this. So originally, the CIA, do you remember this, was an early investor in Qtel, the venture capital arm, was an early investor in Palantir. This is why I'm asking the question, actually, because I think there's a lot of people who are looking right now at sort of the industrial policy of the country. The country is taking stakes in businesses that they think are important, national security issues and the like. And
But isn't that a classically social democratic view?
Well, maybe it is. But my question to you, it was just going to be, if the White House came to you and said, look, hey, Alex, we really like you. We think you're important to this country. You're a very important part of this. And if we're going to continue to give you these contracts, we want a piece of the action. What you would think of that?
I mean, we'll cross that road when we get there. My understanding is people who are in dire trouble go to the White House and ask for money, and they say, we've made horrific business decisions, and we want your help. Why wouldn't the American people participate? One of the biggest problems, if you get to, okay, let's just take, what is the biggest problem in this culture? I'll tell you the biggest problem. No one believes the institutions are credible. And why don't they believe and I struggle to believe they're credible too, because these business leaders make completely stupid decisions. And they get better.
I like Alex Karp.
A year later, they're getting huge bonuses. And what do the American people get? Nothing. And that's a huge problem. If you make, so I think the real version is, I made a lot of decisions when we began talking, annoying each other 10 years ago. Hopefully I'm annoying you as much as 10 years ago, or more. When I made you know this,
Yeah.
every decision Palantir made, FDAs, going public, building products, enterprise, large data sets, going to government, acknowledging American superiority, being pro-meritocracy, launching an AI platform, calling into question that AI models would actually be able to perform without orchestration. Every single one, every single our ontology, every single one of those was viewed as
Not
stupid.
really.
You know what I actually appreciate about
Danik.
capitalism? All the people
There's
who made the right
not that
decisions
much
went
liquidity.
broke,
I was mostly
are
trying to see
going
if I
out of
could just
business,
live
or
trade
now
these.
have to copy us. Microsoft wants ontology. Everyone wants to do FP.
I'm mostly getting
Everyone
ready for
basically
Trump's
copies
announcement at 2:30.
Me and Palantir. That's what I love about this country. If you want to make your stupid decisions and then you go to the White House and ask for money, you should absorb the full risk of that. And I'll tell you the full risk of that. Somehow your salary should be capped to the point where you make a lot of money for the American people. If I was absorbing the full risk of our stupidity, you were absorbing the full risk of my stupidity by putting me on there and knowing all the crazy shit I was going to say, and you were going to have to sit there and listen to it. And you did it. And again, yes, and we're both absorbing the full risk of each other's splendor. At the moment, at the moment where I am wrong, I have to pay the price for it. Just like, you're at the top of your game. Whether we want it or not, you're at the top of your game. Everybody wants to talk to you. Okay, sometimes that's annoying. Okay, it's like I was talking to you when, there were other people above you. Now I'm talking to you when no one's above you. Okay, now, yeah, it's true. And okay, and people
I'll put
think
some
I'm
skin in the
moderately
game on No
successful.
Trump
Okay,
for someone
so
asking.
we at
I don't know. He's
Palantir
made it this far
absorb
without
the
saying it.
full risk of our failure.
But it's
And
not
everyone else should too.
much liquidity anyways.
And I constantly, the critique I get in Wall Street is I'm an arrogant prick. Okay, great. Well, judge me by the accomplishment, the delta between what I've done and my arrogance. That's the definition of arrogance. If you're right a lot, maybe exerting that you're going to be right tomorrow is pretty important. And when we're not right, I pay the price every day. Every day. That's why we have this incredibly painful internal structure of flatness. So I can hear how wrong I am all day. And we absorb the risk of that. And I think in this culture, not enough people, again, the only people who pay the price for being wrong in this culture in complete fashion are poor people. The rest of us somehow outsource all the times we're wrong and stupid to the whole society. But if you're poor and you're a soldier or you're poor in the ghetto, when you're wrong, you go to prison or you die.
I got a different question.
And no one cares.
I got a different question for you.
And again, look left and right. The one thing I would say to people in the audience, a lot of you think I'm right. And your spouse, your relative, your child, the person at work would be horrified if they knew it. You better speak up, because everyone who thinks I'm ridiculous fascist, they're speaking up. They write about it every day. If you do not speak up, the people who are disagreeing with me or think I'm stupid, a lot, I disagree with myself. So you have to speak up. And you cannot blame the far left, far right idiots. When they speak up for their views, do you speak up for your views? Where? Do you tell your colleague? I bet you at the New York Times, a lot of people read that article about us and were ashamed. Did you go to your editor and say, how could you write something that's technically illiterate? The guy might be a fascist, but this is technically illiterate.
Okay, let me ask you a different question.
Did you or didn't you? Because if I'm the only one speaking up, you're going to get a world of technical illiteracy on the right, on the left, and in the middle.
Alex, help me with this. A lot of people come on this stage or publicly, and I think this goes to the
45 minutes in now.
To this audience saying, speak up. And they come up on a stage, or they go on television, or they talk to a reporter, or whatever it is publicly, and they're timid. They don't tell you actually what they think. They've got talking points, they've got plans, all of that. You don't have any of those things.
I like it, though.
To say,
I like that he's kind of
genuinely
wild.
believe, and I think the audience can see
It's
it,
entertaining.
what you think. And my question is, A, do you worry about that ever? And B, to the same point, when you see your peers in the business not speaking up on these issues, not talking about not just these issues, but whatever they actually think, do you think we would be in a better world? And can you see a world where people would actually say exactly what they think the way you have?
I don't say exactly what I think.
You don't?
Well, no, that would get awesome. I mean, like, yeah, it's like, I don't know. But it's very close.
What are we at here?
Yeah, I don't know. I avoid the whole personal stuff as much as I can. But first of all, let me give you again
He started griping about Michael Burry shorting Palantir. I kind of missed that part.
The people who are not speaking up are making huge mistakes. First of all, you're underestimating your audience. When you're not saying roughly what you think, let's get to a mark that's realistic, 50%,
right.
20% of what, even 20% would be 20 times what's actually happened. What the people in the audience actually perceive is you're lying. Now, they don't know what you're lying about, and therefore they impute you're lying about something you're probably not even lying about.
This
And
is
so
going longer than I
I
thought.
have the problem that
but I guess he's very eccentric.
I blow up things all the time. People quit all the time. People are offended. Family members stop talking to me on occasion for years until they discover I'm right. And then they are even more ashamed, and it could take another 2 years. But if you are not, there's really two problems, or two big problems. One, people impute you're lying, and you're not actually lying, but people assume someone of your level of intellect does not believe the stupid things you're saying. And the biggest problem is you lose the smartest people outside, and the problem that they underestimate is you lose the smartest people inside. Because when I'm speaking here, everyone at Palantir, current, past,
I don't see
present,
why I would ever
knows,
fully
hey,
switch J Radius. You should
doing
just
exactly
use
what it
whatever's
does
best
now.
for you. You know what I mean?
So he's telling me the truth when he says, hey, I don't believe this product's going to work, or I am telling you the truth as far as I believe it. And I have a history of being right. And that's the problem. Now, there's a societal problem, which is that we have all the basically obviously ridiculous people, especially the ones who do not even know that they're ridiculous, because there's like some kind of derangement syndrome that has abrogated their ability to think. They speak up all the time, and they intimidate the rest of us. And that's a big problem for our society, because I'll tell you, we are not living in a world in the absence of delivery. If America does not deliver, we will be under the rule that's defined by our adversaries. This is just a fact.
Let me ask you this, because we're going to run out of time. I just want to talk to you about you personally for a moment, and what this is all about.
Carpet's
We're all
dropping truth
watching you,
bombs.
Talk, I think,
Well,
very
it's got to
openly
be wrapping
about
up
your
in like a
views.
second.
And
Let's
I
see
wanna
if
know where you
he
think it all comes from.
throws one in the end.
Where the energy comes from. Your biographer says it comes from your childhood. You grew up dyslexic. You grew up to a Jewish pediatrician was your father. African-American artist was your mother. And I want to know what you think is.
Yeah, he is a
led
yapper.
to
He reminds
all
me of
of
Trump.
this. What's driving you?
It's very hard to know answer these questions. I mean, my parents are extraordinarily talented, and to the point where I think most of the issues they confronted were just, everyone says they want to be around extraordinarily smart people, so they're around extraordinarily smart people. And everyone thinks, the interaction with my parents will school you on what the level of aptitude is in the world, and the rest of my family. But I think for me, people always write about my parents and their background, and the far right hates that I grew up in a Jewish family and defend Jews against the most disgusting and obvious vehement attacks, and the far left thinks because of my background I should somehow give up real progressive thought and support ideologies that only hurt the people they claim to support.
People already pulled orders for all no
I
shares.
think those articles,
Wow.
those ways of thinking don't clear a certain level of thought philosophically. And so I tend to find them fairly boring and wish someone else would speak up. The dyslexia thing has been, which I was totally in the closet about, is the formative moment of my life. And it's simply because if you are massively dyslexic, you cannot play a playbook. There is no playbook a dyslexic can master, and therefore we learn to think freely. And so, one definition of dyslexia would be there are many definitions. One definition that I think is a clearing function is you have a
Semper, it's supposed to relate to like fuel
relationship to,
pricing somehow.
to
I'm going to look at that
facto.
actually.
Meaning a non-dyslexic
If
will
you're
read
still
the
here
text, and the text
after
will become them de
this
facto. The
Alex
more you
Karp
read,
thing
the
ends in
more-
a second.
The more the text becomes you. No dyslexic works that way. And so there are huge disadvantages. Honestly, I would have cut off my arms and legs probably, or at least something to get rid of the dyslexia. But the central advantage is I process in a way that has very little to do with what anyone else thinks. And that has powered a lot, combined with obvious aptitude, and I believe in what we're doing, so we're very aggressive in making it work. I don't know, but where it comes from, but I really believe in the primacy of winning, not for money, which I love the freedom of money, but because, I do think what people will believe will be downstream of what has worked at some point in the future, and I believe in what we're doing.
Let me ask you this, and I want to know whether you think this drives you. You told a story, your mother passed away from cancer, and you were interviewed.
No, she did, that's wrong.
That's
I wonder
wrong?
if
She didn't
GPT's
pass
gonna.
away. No.
Oh my goodness.
No, so luckily.
I don't know why.
Okay.
Why that note said that.
Yeah, okay.
I hope
Wait,
she didn't.
what?
I thought you were talking about the.
You just got
the
a
jeweler
question
Yeah.
and
who helped
accidentally
your mother
asked if his
when she had nothing.
mom was dead.
But I was struck by this. I was struck by a quote where there was a jeweler who helped your mother.
When my
And-
parents
but-
got divorced, my mom had no money, and there was a very kind family.
Several friends called PMT. Yeah, did you guys see that? He
And
just
you said
accidentally.
this about
That was really bad.
life and the jeweler helping your mother, and you said in general people don't help you.
Man, if he
I remember
adds some
watching you
questions
say
in the
that,
end
and I
here,
thought, is that what's driving this?
It's gonna be
Meaning this view
crazy.
about how you think the rest of the world views all of each other, helping each other, or not. That the world is
Well-
actually not trying to help you.
I do not believe it's accurate to say the world will help you. And my grandfather used to say, be careful who you help, they'll never forgive you. I think the more you want, the true progressive position is obviously help someone to help themselves. And I do believe the negative side of helping people, there's a positive side of helping people, but the negative side of helping people is you are conveying the idea that they need your help and they need it in perpetuity, which is dehumanizes and takes away
U.S.
humanity
Venezuela
from them.
military engagements.
I do
I
believe
don't have any
that,
positions.
America and
But
strong individuals.
it's probably going to be an
realistic
example of
individuals
nothing ever happens,
recognize
maybe. But who
you
knows?
are largely on your own. And the more you
He's
recognize
been talking
that,
it up pretty
the
heavily.
better we will be as a society and a world. And that's why I'm very skeptical of all these international.
This is dragging
whatever.
on.
It's all a way of curtailing and constraining the obvious fact that some cultures are superior. We live in the superior culture, a culture that
Man, if
defends
he-
our
if
right
he
to
just
argue, defends
throws
our
some of
right to
these
back
words
it up
in
with
at the
arms,
end.
defends our right to privacy. So the First, Second, and Fourth Amendment.
Throw
I
in
believe
some last
Palantir
words.
and I are fully aligned with the First,
Come
Second,
on.
and Fourth Amendment.
People
No one
bonded no
believes the
way
Fourth
too
Amendment,
early.
But it's arguably as important as the others. The First Amendment was put first for a reason, and
What's up, Akal?
we protect individuals in this country, and our Constitution derives that protection from a higher force, God. It is different than any other country in the world. And the basis of that is protecting our agency as humans. And why do we have that agency? Because it is somehow magical in an artistic sense, or maybe in a religious sense, it's somehow divine. And that agency is how we help others and how we help ourselves. And if you expect people to do more than that, now some people do. The family, I don't know if I should say their name because I don't want them to get protesters, although I've had a lot of people asking, can they go buy jewelry there, especially people I've made very wealthy, and I'm proud of that. There are people who manage to help at key moments.
Man, this got
And
bonded
those
so
people
early.
I have great reverence
If he
for.
says any of
And you
these
will see in
words,
your life
come
that
on.
There are very few of them. I had this advisor, when we transferred into
Keep going,
magnet
Carp.
school at Central, and I got, it's very American, you're already at an elite school, I got an IQ test, and she was like, what are your grades? And in any case, she was like, you should have the best grades and she intervened and took care of me, and I revere that. And I hope people at Palantir, when you come to Palantir is the single
Probably
most
pretty
elite
big
educational
delay.
brand in the world currently. And if you have, it's defined by, it's like being at Harvard or Yale in the 50s. If you are at Palantir, you will have a job immediately, independent of how you did there, which is no other school can claim anymore. And part of the reason people come and stay at Palantir is we actively engage in cultivating minds. One last sentence on us before you go. We cultivate minds by being exceedingly
Please.
difficult.
Throw in one of these
The
words.
minute you are not difficult is a French saying, qui aime bien châtie bien, which basically means if you love greatly, you are exceedingly difficult. Witness all the love I'm giving you. And the New York Times
I've said that one of the things we try
Probably
to
a
do
pretty big
at this
delay.
event every year is to go inside the minds of the most consequential people in the world. Alex Karp, you are one of them, and we have now seen and gone inside your mind. And we want to thank you for the conversation. Thank you. Thank you very, very, very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. We are going to take the
Damn.
next hour and a half for...
Man. That was bonded so freaking early. All right. Well, wait, let me see, Foster. Hey. I actually knew about this, Foster. I was silented. I couldn't speak up, but that's sick.
What was going on with the feed that I was betting against, but I was in the US at the time, and I took off from work and I watched the World Cup. I don't know what was going on with the feed that I was betting against, but I was in the US at the time, and I took off from work and I watched the World Cup, and I was like 30 seconds ahead of the market maker. Yeah, like for every goal. And so it was like Colombia could score, and then I was like, okay, not being called back. Okay, let me bet $2,000. And that just happened for like days. So I was like, okay, I need to like.
This was the early days of online sports betting.
And then you could also like.
This was literally places that were switching from phone banks to.
So you're just court-siding, but just like their feed is just like unbelievably horrible.
Yeah, I mean that was a bad example, but like
that's fair. That's fair.
Using the radio to get ahead. That was. Yeah. I think I got
that
banned.
Still
on the
is an
book.
edge actually. Because just to I say I haven't done this, but like AM radio broadcasts in cities are basically zero decay.
Yeah, it's the only time I've been banned by a sports book. I was using the radio to bet Yankee games live, and they were like, "No, we don't need you."
Yeah, don't blame. That's the only time.
Yeah, that was it.
Who's saying that you inspired it? That's cool. I believe it. Well, look at that. We made $30 on this. But zooming out, for anyone that knows how my week went, right? We started with the huge 5K loss on getting smoked by kind of I won't say insider, but someone who got the release of Spotify early. We got smoked $5,000 on that number 3 artist market. So a lot of people were saying, that I'm washed. It's over. Call it quits. Well, it's currently Wednesday, and we have made back 3 days into the week $4,000 of this. So we are 1K away from being back even on the week after losing $5,000 to start the week. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's probably still a thing, Danny, but I would not ever promote it. Yeah, though, what a legendary week, you know. We're gonna make it back. All right, 1K to go to bring us back to even on the week. Imagine I make a full recovery and I'm up 3K this week. But what is brutal to think about is that had I not lost that 5K, this would have been such a generational week. But you know what? You can't think like that. You got to move on. You got to put things behind you. Did I lose mental after losing this money, by the way? Did I break down? Did I say it's over? No. Okay. I kept my mental strong. But yeah, this will be really cool that Doma's doing that. I'm excited to watch that. Nothing will compare to the Foster interview, though. The Foster interview is legendary. Did I look into any of the 6 NBA games? No, I didn't. Liquidity was kind of small on those, Henry. But I definitely want to eventually. I'm not going to lie, the announcer markets have been one of my best angles for profit this year. I've probably made, I guess I can check if I go on PP Tools. Here, let me download my data. And I'm going to go on PP Tools. I want to see how much I've made on it. All right, your activity. Let's go PP Tools. Kalshi P&L charter. I'll pull it on the screen. I got to just make sure I'm not sharing anything sensitive. Okay. Download. Okay. So, League Pass paid for itself last night? Did that actually work, Loxy? Were you making good money on the announcer? Let me move this, I guess. Okay, here's my trading profit charter. Okay, that's actually cool that the profit I keep looking at is after fees, because I thought they used to show it before fees, but it's cool they do it. So that means, by the way, I've actually made 77K. I've just paid fees. Look at that graph, by the way. Look at that straight line graph. You want to talk about low variance. Boom. But this is where I got smoked. You can see. Boop, 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 boom. But then I came back. It's nice to zoom out like this, because then it makes the 5K feel like nothing that I lost, even though in the moment it kind of sucked. But then I'm like, oh, look. That's like literally a drop in the bucket. By the way, anyone wondering what this is? This was the March AI models. Oh, wait. Okay, let me just... I know, I keep moving chat to kind of... Let me make chat smaller for now. Okay, here's my P&L graph, though. So we've made a total profit of 77K. Where can you find the Dealbook Summit live stream? I think on New York Times. But yeah, look, it's been pretty steady. And you can see that 5K is just a drop drop in the bucket. And we're coming back. Okay, but what I do want to see... Wow, I do good on these underdogs. All right, I want to see how much I've made on NFL announcer markets. Let me find the tickers. How do you pull the CSV? Here. Let me send this in the chat. So, I'll send a link to you guys. This is PP Tools. They have a this P&L charter where you can enter in your CSV from Kalshi, and then it'll like plot your profit. Okay, let me find all the tickers for NFL announcers because I want to know how much I've made off those. I feel like it's a stupid amount of my profits. Oh, you already got them all? Okay. Let's see. NFL mention. Oh, I can push it now? Okay, let me hit refresh. Oh, I have to upload this again. SF mention. Does that work? Oh, one at a time. Man, dude, the whoever programmed this is so wonky. Okay, add filter. I don't know. I don't know what the dev is doing on this. It's not looking good. Let's see. NFL mention. Enter. Add filter. Hold control and press R. All right, let me re-upload my CSV. No. All right, so now it's gonna work. NFL. Okay, it doesn't work, but maybe we can see it here. Be cool if I could expand this. Okay, NFL mention 6,000. Yeah. All right, who's next on New York Times? It's not going to be till 2 p.m. Tyler, if you go to that link I sent in the chat, it'll like literally give you a link to get there, to be able to download it. Clean energy is a 97% lock. Is this really 1:30? I think this is like 4 p.m. The Mr. Beast market has to be super hard to project, though. Oh, no. Oh, no, you're using AI research? I do not recommend. I do not advise. What we actually could look at is he did that one speech a while back. He did that green energy one. Well, they technically have start times here. I don't know how accurate these are. Because I think Gavin Newsom isn't till like 4 p.m., but I don't know. So I don't know how accurate these live times are. All right, not to go on a tangent, but I haven't looked at the college football rankings yet. And apparently they just released them. Bracket. You're plus 30,000 on NFL mentions? Wait, Foster, can I see it now? Wait, Foster, can I DM you? I'm going to send you my CSV, Foster. Refresh the chart. It should work. All right. I'll add it one more time. My gosh. I don't know. I probably need to clear cookies or something. Let me try opening this in incognito mode. Okay, it works in incognito. Let me get all the strikes. You sent it before. So I just did SNF mention, TNF mention. Oh, I feel like this is going to be way worse than I thought. Oh, terrible stats. I've only made 9,000 off NFL mentions. That's actually not that good. Wow. I'm so washed. I thought I had made so much more. MYT still hasn't come back, by the way. Okay. I'm going to pause the stream, do some research. I'll probably be back for the 2:30 with Trump announcement. I need to research it beforehand, get some positions built up. So I'll be back at 2:30.